Hello, and welcome to episode 162 of Design Curious Podcast. I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. Today on the podcast, I have Jonathan Feniak as a LLC attorney, and he has some really good information. Let me tell you a little bit more about him. Lead attorney Jonathan Feniak is a driving force behind LLCattorney.com, with a mission to make quality legal guidance accessible to business owners and individuals across the United States. Specializing in asset protection, estate planning, and business formation, he provides practical solutions that empower clients to protect their assets and build strong legal foundations. Before becoming an attorney, Jonathan built a dynamic career spanning operations and financial services. As a leader at DHL in Manhattan, he managed daily operations through the challenges of 9/11. Later, he transitioned to finance, gaining expertise in deal structuring and asset management with Wells Fargo advisors and boutique investment firms. Admitted to practice law in Colorado and Wyoming, Jonathan combines this rich experience with legal expertise to help entrepreneurs in diverse industries and activists protecting their causes. He previously worked with legal tech startup Term Scout and the law firm Lewis, Best, Williams & Weiss. We have a great discussion about LLC, incorporations, or sole proprietorship, and how to form your business, what you should be doing when you start out, when you should change. So you're going to want to listen in. Let's get into it. You're now listening to Design Curious, a place where you, creative one, are here to learn about what it really is like to be an interior designer. And I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. If you're worried about how to succeed in a creative career, if you're ready to learn your next steps to become an interior designer, and if you want the satisfaction of doing something you love every day, you are in the right place. Grab a coffee, a notebook, and let's dig into today's episode. Hi, Jonathan. Welcome to Design Curious Podcast. It's great to have you here today.
Thank you very much. I am super excited to be here. Design is near and dear to my heart, so I'm looking to really helping your listeners understand the legal parts of starting a business.
Right. Yeah. We were talking offline about how really close you are to the creative industry and interior design in general. Do you want to share a little bit about what you're surrounded by?
Yeah. This is true. So my sister-in-law is an interior designer in Denver, Colorado. My brother-in-law is an architect in Denver. My sister is an architect in DC. My father-in-law is an architect. He doesn't practice anymore. My wife is an artist, Meredith Feniak. She works with interior designers as well as architects to do sort of large-scale mural installations is her focus, but she was a botanical illustrator. So she's actually working on a project in just about a month in Denver for a sort of a remodel of a public building. And then my son is an artist as well, Nathan Feniak. He graduated from Cooper Union. And so artists and designers and creatives are all around me. I'm a lawyer. I don't have a creative bone in my body. I think about things creatively, but I can't put pen to paper on anything.
Yeah. Well, I guess some people would say lawyers have to be creative too.
Not too creative. You get
arguments
down,
No. But why don't you tell us then your journey about the necessarily non-creative side of becoming an attorney?
Yeah, I actually started out English major, undergrad, was in transportation and logistics, UPS, DHL, got an MBA, worked in finance, was a financial advisor, a securities broker, stockbroker, as well as working with high net worth. Didn't graduate law school till 2019. So I'm 50. You can't see the gray here, but I'm 52 or 3. It's always hard to remember. You get a certain age. Maybe I don't want to remember. But became a lawyer much later in life and focused on, how can I do something different? Did not want to be the standard attorney. And so me and a group of other entrepreneurs, lawyers, those with a business spirit, we created LLC Attorney, LLCattorney.com, to make it easy to form LLCs or corporations, but get the guidance and advice you need. We're not a law firm, but we do everything has been created by attorneys. Our website has an amazing amount of information. We've got our LLC Attorney official YouTube channel where I do videos for folks like your listeners, as well as for others, whether in real estate or whatever else. And so trying to really, really democratize legal services in a way that make it easy to access, and you're getting what you need. It's really hard to tell, is it something that I need, or is this being just sort of sold to me, right? When I go to a mechanic, I don't know, I'm not mechanically inclined, not good with my hands. My mind is pretty good, but not good with my hands or creative things. But when they say, oh, you're going to need new brakes, or you need a new air filter or whatever, I don't know if I actually do, or they're trying to sell me something. So we want it to be with llcattorney.com. If it's there, if it's offered, it's something you probably need now or are going to need in the future. So try to really focus on delivering real value to the customers for LLC Attorney. I also do consultations. I have a law firm and do consultations with folks who need some more guidance on more complex topics. We have a bunch of different attorneys can help, whether it's intellectual property or trademarking or tax and so on and so forth. So try to really democratize LLCs and legal services.
Okay. Yeah. So you are pretty much an entrepreneur yourself and surrounded by entrepreneurs. So that's kind of the focus then of your services for entrepreneurs. Yeah.
It is. Over 100,000 companies formed. And, over the course of a year, I talked to one-on-one. Last year is over 1,000 individuals or business partners, helping them understand what it is they need to do, when they should start their company, what they should do with it once they do form it. So I really have my ear to the ground, and our company is trying to meet that need, forming several thousand LLCs a month for our customers.
Okay, well, let's talk about the journey and kind of what typically happens and what should be happening maybe when you're forming a business. Like my story, I, like so many designers who have their own business, had a friend ask if I can help, with their living room. And so I said, yeah, let's do this. And then I was like, well, I want to do it legitimately because I was interested in starting my business. And so I went and got a business license and set up as a sole proprietor. I didn't even really think about consulting an attorney for setting up my business. I knew I needed a CPA, but I was a sole proprietor for a long time. And
maybe you need a CPA. We're not on video, so I'm making faces. I'm saying, maybe, whatever else. But
it's like, maybe
maybe. But yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no problem. Well, I was going to turn it to you because I think a lot of designers do set up as sole proprietor first thing. Is that okay? Or should we really just go to LLC? Now I'm set up as an S Corp. I never did an LLC.
Awesome.
So tell me then what would you recommend? If I was starting way back again, all over, what would you say to me?
This is the typical path, right? And I was listening to one of your other podcasts with, I think it's Bree Hance with Enhance. Her path was the same. You get asked by someone, hey, could you do this? I know you've got talent. You did your own house. I admire your house. Can you do this for me? It's a friend. In that case, you're like, sure. What's your risk, right? That's really where what this comes down to. What type of protection do you need? A friend, you're not hiring subcontractors. You're not going to be doing anything where there's a danger that it's a load-bearing wall or something to that effect. The downside is really low. There's always some way that you could get sued, right? But when it's a friendly person and you're doing it for, sort of just to get your feet under you, I don't think you need an LLC at that point in time. Your protection that you need is there's almost no risk. I want people to match the complexity of their structure with really what the real world risks are of them engaging in this business. And as long as you're not stepping over those sort of bounds, you're not getting into construction. If you got a design build firm, right, or you're working with contractors, there is more liability associated with that. If you're working with an architect, the architect has the majority or the engineer has the majority of the risk there. You pick out a wrong color, you pick out something that they're not happy with, or they decide a lot of times that I've seen with my family members, they enter into the agreement and then their financial situation changes and then they don't want to pay, right? Not because they don't like what you did, but they come up with reasons not to pay. And so most of the risk though in this business is really contract risk. You've got contract risk that they don't perform on the contract. They accuse you of not performing on the contract. And when you're starting out with friendly, small dollar deals where you don't really have any money on the line, you're not going and buying the furniture and those things, fronting it, and then looking to charge and collect from them, your risk is super low. And in those cases, I think a structure where it's just you. Hi, I'm Jonathan. Hi, I'm Rebecca. I can do this for you. You're just going to cut a check to me, right? That's fine. Then when you start taking on your bigger projects, you've got contractual risk. You are hiring subcontractors. You have potential where you're working with designers or I should say architects or engineers where they are going to look to come after you in some way if something goes wrong, right? The blame tends to run downhill. And so in those cases, we think about it from the perspective of how much risk am I taking on? And then like what could go horribly wrong? And I have to say, maybe I'm fun at parties depending on who you're with, but people are always dying, getting injured, getting sued in every conversation I have. And that's the way my mind works. Maybe not fun for my family, but for, my people I'm talking to as a lawyer, they appreciate that, right?
Uh-huh.
And it's up to you as the business owner to evaluate the risk. But those first couple of projects, getting your legs under you, does this thing work? I think you could do that in your name. You don't even do a DBA. Don't worry about an EIN number, just doing your personal name. Then you start saying, all right, these are larger projects. I've got more risk. And if you're working with in anything that's commercial, they're likely going to require you to have insurance of some sort for your subcontractors, for the independent contractors you bring on, the person who's going to hang the wallpaper or, be doing some woodwork installation or something else. In that case, insurance is great. Insurance is the first thing. And it should be, even before an LLC, if you're working as an individual, get insurance. Mm-hmm. There's a company out there I like. I don't have any affiliation with them. They're called Thimble. And Thimble is really cool because what they allow you to do is get insurance for a specific project. You're doing one project a month or one project a quarter when you're first starting out. Mm-hmm. You can get it for just, I need the insurance for this 2-month period when I'm working on it.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
Very cool. And they do it in all sort of funky industries and so on and so forth. I recommend checking out Thimble. And my wife, I had said she's an artist. She's working on this project in Denver within the next couple of months. She does one project every year or so. And so for her, get that insurance. She doesn't need insurance over the entire term. She needs it during the period that she's there on site. So think about where your risk is and then definitely insurance. And then we start saying, okay, when does an LLC make sense? Well, when you're getting into these contractual relationships where the liability potential outstrips your insurance potentially, or there's something that's not covered by insurance. Insurance is typically going to cover things like liability. Someone gets hurt, they slip, they fall. But to have you made a mistake on picking out something or something fell down and hurt someone, you installed a bookshelf, had a bookshelf installed, it fell on someone again, the terrible world I live in, someone's always getting hurt. Right. So in that case, you say, okay, LLC makes sense. When this is becoming something substantial amount of your time, substantial amount of liability, and forming a business entity. And I say LLC because 95% of the time, and in this space, I would say almost 100% of the time, an LLC is the appropriate business entity. Having that LLC where the LLC is the one that's taking on that business risk. It enters into the contract with the homeowner, with the business owner, with the architect, with the engineer, and it is the one that gets sued. Mm-hmm. That is what we want to happen. That's what LLCs or business entities do. They limit your liability. Now, whatever's in the LLC, if you take $100,000 and put it into your LLC, or it has $100,000 sitting in the bank account, if that company gets sued, that $100,000 is subject to those claims. But that's it. If you do it right, you respect the entity, then they can't say, we're going to go after Rebecca as well. We're going to limit our liability to that business entity. And it's an agreement with the state. The state says, we'll let you to foster entrepreneurship, to foster businesses. We'll let you limit your liability, but we need to make it easy to sue you. And that's where your registered agent comes in. That's where the filing with the Secretary of State, you say, okay, anyone who wants to sue this company, you can look at the Secretary of State's site and it says, serve the legal papers here. Makes it very easy. That's the trade-off. If someone wants to sue Rebecca and you just showed up, they don't know where you live or whatever else, maybe you've kept your information private, it's hard to sue you, right? You have to, we watch movies like You've Been Served, right? They come in and they, wherever it is at your workplace or whatever. So that's the role of the registered agent. And you have to, under state law, you have to identify how can this company be sued. It's our business. Part of LLC attorney forming the business entities is also serving as a registered agent. And some people list themselves as the registered agent to save a couple of bucks. The problem is if you have an office, then you have someone potentially who's suing you, all your employees know that you're being sued now, and that can be negative. Or someone could show up at your house, right? If you're a registered agent, you don't have an office location, then they show up at your house and you're having a dinner party and, you've been sued kind of thing, which can be problematic. So small price to pay for that professional registered agent to provide that service. So then we've got the LLC or the business entity. I keep saying LLC, but there are two choices. The two choices at the state level for the overwhelming majority of people are going to be an LLC or a corporation. That's at the state level, entity type. And the way I like to imagine this, or like people to, the way I recommend imagining it, if you go to a restaurant and they say it's like a fixed price menu, and maybe this is elitist to say fixed price menu, but we'll go with that. And they say pick one item from column A and one item from column B, right?
Yeah.
Column A, business entity type at the state level, corporation or LLC. There's other ones, professional corporation. There's all sorts of other ones. That's not going to apply to someone usually in this business. Now, if you're an architect or an engineer, there may be professional entity requirements where a PC, or sometimes you'll see PLLC. Those are professional corp or professional limited liability company. So in most cases, though, we're talking LLC or corporation at the state level. And then there's tax classification at the federal level. When you get your EIN, it's going to be issued by the IRS as either if it's a single member LLC, it's going to be issued as a disregarded entity. Okay, disregarded entity classification means that the IRS is not expecting any separate filing from this business. It's saying you're just going to report the income of that business on your personal tax return, your 1040 or your joint 1040. There's no separate reporting. It's disregarded for tax purposes, but it's highly regarded for legal purposes. And that's the distinction we need to make here. No matter what, we need to treat the business entity as separate and distinct from us. It's not our legal entity. In businesses where it's a services business, personal services business like this, that's an important thing to make sure you're making that distinction. From tax purposes, disregarded. For legal purposes, it's not Rebecca you're working with. It is XYZ, RW Designs, whatever it is. And so you're the lead, you're the owner, but all the services are provided through Rebecca's LLC. So at the tax level, I digressed there. State level, LLC or corp, tax, disregarded entity. And then if it's more than one member, you're starting up a business with your friend, then by default, it's a partnership. Partnership has a filing requirement, but there's no tax paying requirement. It basically splits the income into the percentages of the owners. The next thing you can do is called an S Corp tax election. And I believe, Rebecca, you said that you have elected to treat your business as an S Corp. An S Corp is a special type of tax classification. It can be an LLC or a corporation. This is one of the things that many people miss, is that you can have an LLC, which elects to be taxed as an S Corp. You don't need to be a corporation in order to receive S Corp tax classification. S Corps are great when you start to really make some money because they allow you to split your income from that business into two parts. One is a reasonable salary or reasonable compensation. That is subject to FICA taxes. FICA taxes are your taxes from earnings. That's your Social Security and Medicare. If you work for someone else as a W-2, you see it come out of your check, FICA tax or SSI, whatever it is. And then the rest of it, though, is not subject to the FICA tax. FICA taxes are 15.3% in 2025, up to the first $175,100 of income. You pay 15.3% on it, all the way up. And then above that, you're going to pay somewhere between 2.9 and 3.8%, all the way to infinity. So if you're making good money with your business, making that S Corp election, choosing the right reasonable compensation or reasonable salary, then allows you to save for every $10,000, you're saving $1,500 in taxes, which is not a bad deal, right?
Yeah.
Now, did you form a corporation at the state level or an LLC at the state level?
Corporation.
A corporation. Yeah. Mistake. You messed up. Why do I say that? Well, because a lot of times, and accountants will say, yeah, you form an S Corp, right? Yeah. There is no S Corp. S Corp doesn't exist, right? It's either an LLC or corporation, but people don't hear corp and they think they need to form a corporation to obtain that benefit. No, it's actually the default. If you formed a corporation at the state level and went for an EIN number, employer identification number from the Internal Revenue Service, they would issue it. Default classification would be a C Corp, which you definitely don't want, almost definitely don't want. So you could have formed an LLC and then gotten the S Corp tax election because it's a separate, they call it the check the box election. And you have to file this form. I like throwing the form numbers out there. It shows what I'm talking about, right? It's like if, as an interior designer, you see something and you're like, oh, that's a Roche Boubois couch with this, and I'm throwing out my high-end design here. Roche Boubois couch that came out in 2022. Like, those things, and it shows your expertise and authority. So this Form 2553 is what you file to make an S Corp tax election. You can do that with an LLC. Why have an LLC over a corporation? Okay, this is the heart of this thing. LLCs are just easier to administer, and they have superior asset protection. So a corporation has shareholders. It has a board of directors and it has officers. And each of those the shareholders need to vote for the board. The board then needs to appoint the officers. The officers have the authority to take action on behalf of the corporation. So you have these three levels. There's also the corporate laws are structured in such a way because the idea from the state level is corporations, we want to protect the shareholders, right? We really want to protect those shareholders. So you got to have when are the meetings called? What's a quorum? Blah, 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 all these different things that come into play. With an LLC, the simplest version of an LLC is called a member managed LLC. There's just you. It's just Rebecca. Rebecca gets to make all the decisions and there's no shareholders or board, or you are the owner and you are the one who runs the company. And so the ability or the opportunity to potentially screw up and miss some record keeping is very low. You can have informal meetings when you just have your member managed LLC. And Rebecca, in most cases, you don't have actually any record keeping requirement. I highly recommend you keep records of contributions to the company, putting money in, distributions, money coming out, or when you make a decision that could potentially get you sued. And those are, special meeting minutes, we call them. You can do all of these things, by the way, in the LLCattorney.com. We want you to be compliant. I don't want anyone's LLC to get sued, and it does not deliver on that promise of limited liability protection. So really easy. Meeting minutes go in. I'm putting money in. I'm taking money out. I'm making an important decision. I'm going to do meeting minutes for it. Put it on your calendar once a month. It doesn't need to be contemporaneous. It could be, once a month you do that, boom, and you've got 12 meeting minutes. That is great protection for you. But it's very easy to stay compliant with an LLC, a corporation, lot more complexity in the business structure. So I recommend an LLC. Well, let's start the path here, right? The path is, do you need an LLC at all? Almost no risk. Probably not, right?
Yeah.
You start having some more risk, get insurance, you can get in your personal name. The LLC itself it offers other benefits than just the asset protection. It shows that you are serious. This is not a fly-by-night operation. I've got a business. I took the time to form XYZ LLC, Rebecca's Interior Design LLC. And it shows the other party, like in a business setting, if it's just an individual, is saying, how serious are they? Are they going to be able to deliver on this? An LLC actually limits your risk, but makes you seem more professional. And then use that to go, you get your website and all those things. A lot of people really focus on the name of the LLC, and it's not that important. Right? That's the whisper. What is important is the LLC exists, and it could be a fairly generic name. Again, Rebecca Ward Designs LLC, but you want to call it something else in the public space. You want to present yourself in some other way. Then you can do what's called a DBA or trade name. And many people's sole proprietors start out by doing just a trade name. They don't actually form an LLC, which is fine. You can have that trade name. And sometimes you may want to have more than one trade name, depending on what market you're focusing on. One of the trade names could be Rebecca's Residential Interiors, and the other one could be RW Corporate Design. And this way you can have two different websites, right? You got two different websites, two different sort of brands that you're putting out to the world. And maybe if they're doing business, they want you to do corporate interiors, it may be a ding against you if they see that you also have this website with residential stuff. And it may be residential that may see, because you're dealing with different markets. So I recommend that LLC name is fairly generic, still on brand. But then you've got these DBAs or trade names, super easy to file at the state level. And you can then hold yourself out to the public in different ways to capture different sort of segments of the market, different websites, and so on and so forth. And you don't have the complexity of, I need multiple companies here. It's still, from the perspective of from the taxes and otherwise, everything still goes into the LLC name bank account. But it helps with that branding angle, which is incredibly important in your business.
A question on that, because I think I've been on the receiving end of this. So when you have the one bank account, is it the name of the LLC that's on the check, right?
Yeah.
So when it goes to...
It is, right. The LLC. So the LLC should enter into the contracts.
Yeah.
And you could have the contract you enter in with that other person or that other company would be XYZ LLC, comma, DBA, Rebecca's Design. And that's how you word it. But if someone gives you a check for Rebecca Design, it's okay because you'll notify your bank, hey, I got this trade name, and the bank will accept checks that are made out to the LLC or to the Rebecca Designs or whatever your trade names are. So the bank will accept them. and you are fine. Just you're holding yourself out. A DBA or trade name really can't enter into a contract. It has to be the company name. And then on those contracts, the other thing is a lot of times, so someone says, I'll send you over a contract. They only know you as Rebecca, and they send over the contract where it just has Rebecca Ward as the person who's entering, or the who they're entering the contract with. Don't sign that. Send that back. Hey, it's going to be under my LLC, DBA, blah, blah, blah.
Got it.
And then in your signature line, it says Rebecca Ward Designs, LLC, DBA, and then Rebecca Ward Manager or Member or whatever your title is. So you're setting it out. If they send that over, you sign the contract with your name on it, you are on the hook, right? That is going to be the best evidence of you being personally liable.
Right. And so it's in the name, it's the limited liability is like putting that name, that corporation on the contract limits your liability. Right?
Exactly.
So,
otherwise, you entered into it with them.
Yeah.
And you are the brand. And it's with realtors and with designers and people, lawyers as well. Who are you entering into this agreement with? Make sure you're clear. It's not Rebecca. I am behind the company, but you're entering in the agreement with Rebecca as the Rebecca's LLC.
Really good recommendations there.
So then you respect the business entity. A lot of times as well, people want to pay you through, well, I'm just going to Venmo you. What's your Venmo? And they send it to Rebecca Ward's Venmo. You should not do that. The income from the business should go into the business bank account. Expenses of the business, you're paying subcontractors or otherwise, should come out of the business bank account. And there's also this concept of undercapitalized company, that if the company has no assets in its bank account, has nothing in its bank account, then someone suing says, well, the company's just a shell. This company, then therefore we should hold Rebecca responsible because she takes every last penny out. You should have what I call reasonable working capital reserves in the business bank account. What is that? 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. So if you get, your first check comes in, and I know you want to, your $5,000, $10,000 comes in. I'm not saying keep all 10,000 in there, right? But don't take out every last penny. Keep a portion of it in. I've got my own businesses. I've got a bunch of different credit cards and debit cards and bank accounts for a bunch of different businesses. We actually have a special relationship LLC attorney with a bank called Relay Financial. And Relay is they call it a profit first is their focus. And one of the things that I do when I do my banking with that is that all the money comes in to my main operating account. And I've set a threshold. What is my minimum working capital reserve? X dollars. Anything above that, it automatically, I set the rules so that it automatically takes a portion, puts it towards my FICA tax, takes a portion and puts it towards my federal tax. And then the rest goes into my profit account. And I know that profit account, I can take whatever I want out of the profit account. The other accounts, I've got them ring fenced and identified as being, these already have a purpose. This working capital, the main operating account, is also one that I'm not going to let get to zero. I'm going to have proper capitalization of the company. So when you need the LLC, getting the insurance, getting the LLC set up, having that professional registered agent, having your documentation for the LLC, keeping ongoing meeting minutes, respecting the bank account, contracts in the name of the right party, you're going to be very well protected. And maybe not an issue here, those special meeting minutes when you make an important decision. What I like to think of is, could this decision I'm making get me sued? If it can, I want to have meeting minutes that show I'm making this and exercising something called business judgment. The business judgment rule protects the owners of business entities from bad decisions. You make a bad decision. You hire a contractor, and the contractor, you thought they were licensed and insured, but they pulled the wool over your eyes, and the work then causes a fire, right, at the person's house because they did some electrical work. How did you make that decision? Did you exercise business judgment? I checked, looked in the Better Business Bureau. I checked and made sure that they were licensed and insured as an electrician, and then I hired them, and here's what I did. Now, if it turns out they weren't licensed, but you had done your due diligence, you are going to be almost assuredly protected from that, what turned out to be a bad decision. The failing to do that, you hire, well, it's a buddy. I know him from, our kids go to the same school, and he said he could do electrical, or she said she could do electrical, so I'm just going to bring him in. You didn't exercise business judgment. That was because it helps Rebecca in some way, right? And that's at least what the other side who's suing you would say. So if you're making a decision, hiring a subcontractor, someone who's going to be doing something that could get you in trouble, that's where meeting minutes, put it in there, boom. Looked for a licensed electrician, found one, checked their licensing, they were good to go, I hired them. We don't want anything bad to happen, but if it does, you show you exercise business judgment. Imagine it's 3 years from now and you get sued. Prove that. Prove that you exercise business judgment. How did you find this person? no idea. My Google history, I delete my Google search history every 90 days. I have no idea. So that is protective of you. And that's ultimately what I want. And I want LLC attorney to be able to deliver is you actually get the delivery of the promise of limited liability protection.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. I think that covers all of the steps going from when you're just starting to being fully covered for all the risk that we can have as interior designers. There can be a lot of risk as you really increase your project size and scope. So, yeah.
It is. And then, the contract risk, talk about that being one of the big issues here with interior designers that I've seen is that people, they get cold feet, they back out, their financial position change. If there's one partner who's really for it and then they sign the agreement and the other partner's like, how much are you spending? I'm sure you have horror stories, right, of these things happening. Strong contracts. And as you are growing and the project size is getting bigger, I don't think you need an attorney right off the bat. I don't think you need an attorney to form your LLC and those sorts of things. But as your projects are getting bigger, I think it makes sense at that point to reinvest some money, spend a couple of grand probably to get that contract that is going to protect you. There's a lot of remedies available depending on what you're doing. There's the mechanics liens, right? If you're doing that, something becomes a fixture is installed. You get a lien against the property. All right, don't pay me. I got a lien. The government wants to protect licensed professionals who, once you put in the electrical or put in the plumbing or put in, some fixture, what are you going to do? Tear it out? Like that doesn't make sense. So they give you a mechanism to do it. But having a lawyer draft those agreements to protect you from that contract risk. What are the interim payments they need to make? So the progress payments, what are the payment terms on it, interest accruing and so on and so forth. And having that strong contract protects you on the business side. It protects you if you're getting sued too, limitations of liability, right? What's the most they come after you for? No incidental or consequential damages. The only thing they could come after you for is the amount they paid you. Nothing. Even if the plumbing breaks and it causes $100,000 of damage, sorry, the most out you're going to get from me is the amount that we committed to. And especially because I exercise business judgment and that person I hired was actually licensed, insured, whatever else. So.
Yeah, that's really good. So if a designer listening is like, well, I feel like I'm getting to that point now of needing a little bit more, is llcattorney.com something that they will find resources at that can help them?
Yeah, better than that. llcattorney.com, not a law firm. I've taken my brain and the brains of other attorneys here and put it into an amazing knowledge base that I've trained a team. We call them business success advisors, and they will answer the phone. You have questions. All right, I'm in this state. I'm doing interior design. What do I need to know? How do I set up the LLC? How do I get the right tax election or whatever else? They don't engage in the practice of law, which is applying your facts to a particular situation. But they say things like, generally speaking, you're going to form your LLC in the state in which you're operating your business, right? Generally speaking, the member managed LLC or manager managed LLC, and then form that. And then you can make a tax election for an S Corp at a later date if the math is math and then make the S Corp election. When you're just starting out, typically an S Corp doesn't make sense. Yeah. Accountants will tell you to do it on day one. I recommend against that. But they have great resources. I filmed a ton of videos on these things. I've written our articles on our website are fantastic. And so we're information driven. We want you to be able to deliver on the limited liability company benefits. And so call the team, numbers on the website, and they will help you. If you get to the point where like, all right, this is moving into the practice of law, then they give you a resource, book with an attorney. You can book with me.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I call myself a single serving attorney. So you can book with a half-hour increment with me, and it's a paid consultation, but there's no retainer and 9 times out of 10, you walk away from that with all the answers to your questions. But then there's going to be things, again, when you get to that point and you're looking for the contract, right, that's really protective. That would be go in your network, find someone who has a trusted attorney. And I never want to hire an attorney who it's their first time doing something. So who have they done a contract for? Right? Yeah. Your friends, others in the place. Hey, do you have an attorney who did your contract? And they're like, yeah, it's this guy or this gal. And then you go and you're like, hey, I want a contract just like they have.
Yeah.
and in that point, it's like, all right, here, boom. They get to basically reuse that, maybe some slight tweaks or modifications, but that's a good way to keep the legal expense down when you are hiring an attorney. But we have great resources at the website, and call the number. Check us out.
Great. Well, thank you, Jonathan. We're going to put all that contact information in the show notes too, so people can easily find it. It's been a pleasure talking with you today.
Awesome.
I think really eye-opening and some good specifics that we really needed some clarification. Actually, I haven't had it explained to me quite so clearly before. So that was really helpful. Thank you.
I really appreciate that. And I am excited to be able to talk to you. And I mean, that Bree Hance's, her progress, I was like, yes, this is it. This is exactly what so many creatives go through.
Yes,
and I wish your audience all the absolute best. And check us out, llcattorney.com.
Great. Well, thank you. We will do.
Thank you.
So much great information. Jonathan had a wealth of knowledge, and we even discussed a little bit of my own setup afterwards. He's just very giving, very generous. So definitely reach out to him to find out what is the best setup for your design business. You are starting out, or even if you are an established designer, he can answer all those questions for you. And if you're looking to start your business, and this kind of goes hand in hand with that, don't forget we have Launch Your Business Bootcamp in January. We do talk about how you set up your business starting out. And so that is going to be helpful to have Jonathan's expertise on hand for that as well. Okay, that's all I have for you this week. Next week, we'll have another great episode. And until then, stay creative. Thanks for listening. If you love this episode, please leave a rating and a review. This helps me reach other curious creatives like you. If you have a topic request or would like to contact me, simply head over to my website, rwarddesign.com, or email me at podcast@rwarddesign.com.